In this video, we are going to review for the graphing trigonometric functions topic. We first begin by graphing two periods of the following function. In order to do this, we need to identify the key features using our success criteria. We're going to find period. So, period is 2 pi over b. b in this case is 4, so we're going to simplify it, and that's going to give us pi over 2. So our period is pi over 2. Frequency, that's just reciprocal period, or 2 over pi. Midline, that's y equal to -1. Amplitude is 3 from this number. We're going to wait and identify these features after we have graphed our function. Oh, I guess we can determine that there is no phase shift. And there's also no reflection because there's not a negative in front of our function. Now we're going to sketch our graph. In order to sketch our graph, we need to find the scale of our x-axis. So recall that scale is period, okay, divided by 4. Here, our period is pi over 2, so we're going to divide that by 4. And just a little recap on dividing with fractions. We're going to keep the numerator, pi over 2, and instead of dividing by 4, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal 4, which is 1 over 4th. Multiply straight across, so we have 1/8. Okay, so this is our scale for the x-axis. Okay, we're going to label our x-axis. Okay, so here's 0, and then every tick mark we're going to count by an 8. So here is an 8, 2 8s, 3 8s, 4 8s. Okay, and we know that this is going to give us a period. Okay, and then in the negative direction, -8, -2 8s, -3 8s, -4 8s. Then for the y-axis, we can just count by ones. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and draw our midline. So let's use a different color. Midline is -1. So here's -1. Then using our amplitude, we're going to identify our maximum. So we're just going to add 3 to our midline, giving us a maximum of 2. And then we're going to subtract 3 from our midline to give us a minimum of -4. Okay. All right, now let's start plotting some points. This is a cosine, so we're going to start on the maximum. We do not have a reflection, so our y-intercept, again, is going to be on our maximum. And then we're just going to follow the pattern. On the next tick mark, we need to be on the midline. And then the tick mark after that, we need to go on the minimum. Back to the midline and finish at the top of our maximum. If you go into the reverse direction, we're on the maximum. We need to go back to the midline, minimum, midline, and back the maximum. And then we can connect these points, and that's going to give us the graph for 3 cosine of 4x minus 1. All right, here it's going to go back and finish identifying the different key features that we haven't. The y-intercept is at 0, 2. Okay, domain, of course, is all real numbers. Range, our low is -4. And our maximum is 2. Okay. Second example, let's find period. So period again is 2 pi over b. B in this case is 1/2. I'm going to simplify. That's 2 pi times the reciprocal 1/2, which is 2 over 1. Multiply straight across. Our period is 4 pi. That means our frequency is the reciprocal for pi, so 1 over 4 pi. Midline is y is equal to 1. Again, it's this number right here that tells us the midline. Amplitude is the absolute value of a, so in this case it's 4. Phase shift, none, and there is a reflection. Okay. All right, so now we're going to start sketching our graph. So I'm going to erase here to give us some room. In order to sketch the graph, we need to determine the scale for the x-axis. Okay, so scale, again, that is period divided by 4. So our period is 4 pi. We divide that by 4. We're going to be using pi as our scale. Okay, so here I'm just going to write scale. I'm going to use pi. And let's go ahead and erase our work. And we can start sketching our graph. Okay, here we go. So, okay, pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, negative pi, negative 2 pi, negative 3 pi, and negative 4 pi. Again, we will need 4 tick marks, okay, to complete one cycle. And then for the y-axis, we can just use 1 for our scale. So first thing, we're going to label our midline. Our midline is 1. Okay, so here's 1. And then our amplitude is 4, so we're going to add 4 to the midline to give us a maximum of 5. And then we're going to subtract 4 from 1 to give us a minimum of -3. Okay, all right, sine, that means our y-intercept is going to be on the midline. Okay, and then because we have a reflection, we're going to go down to our minimum on the next tick mark. Then from minimum, go to the midline, maximum, back to the midline. Okay, reverse direction from midline to the maximum because we're going the reverse direction. Back to midline, minimum, and back on the midline. Okay, so connect our points, and then we have our graph.